Hola estudiantes, bienvenidos a este video sobre el verbo tener. Soy yo, el señor Hunter, ah, enseñándote cómo usar este verbo. Para este video, necesitarás una pluma, un boli o un lápiz. También a esta paquete que está mostrada para los apuntes y la práctica. Primero, tener will help you tell your story and understand at least 3 details of other stories. This page breaks down a few of the ways that you can use the verb tener. Right? I would read through first a couple central ideas here. La idea central de tener. Tener has a unique pattern for ER verbs. This is what it means when it says here in the title. Tener is an irregular verb. Here are its forms. Tenemos tengo, tienes, tiene. Tenemos, tenéis, tienen. Otra vez, tengo, repite, tienes y tiene. También tenemos, tenéis y tienen. Number 2, idea central, first person yo form, we can realize it ends with go, not o. A lot of times when we translate or lo siento conjugate our verbs in first person singular for present tense, we see a very clear pattern of O endings. The O is still here and sustained, but we have a GO. This is involved in our go verbs, right? Instead of just ending in O, you take off the ending and add GO for the first person singular. Last key point, it's a chancla verb. Chancla, como un tipo de zapato. Bien? It's a chancla verb because, as you can realize, and I'll do my best to attempt this drawing and then probably get rid of it, it kind of forms a bit of a chancla. Okay, so you got the bottom right here, across the bottom. These two forms, all right, third person singular, third person plural. There's a change in the stem. The TEN becomes TIENE. The ending changes the same way as all other ER verbs, but the E in the stem, this is the stem, TEN, becomes, rather, get rid of that, TEN, becomes TN. So instead of tene, it becomes TNA. And instead of tenen, it's TNN. Again, that's just the bottom of the chancla. The other aspect is the part of the chancla that kind of goes over. So this part of the chancla goes up, comes back down, and then this part of the chancla also goes up, and then comes back down. That's what forms our chancla there. We can see that the chancla is there, and again, this is maybe a little bit amusing, but we are doing this to show clearly that we see the same change here. We can see also in second person singular, we see the same E in the stem changes to an IE. You can see that here. It's not tenes, but tienes. Again, this forms the chancla. That's why we call that a chancla verb. Okay? Those three forms have a stem change. The E becomes an IE in those forms. Okay? As we go forward, we want to use what we know about these conjugations and their matching with our subject pronouns to decide the correct conjugation. Para decidir y hacer práctica A, B, hasta práctica E, we need to use this plan. These 4 laws of conjugation are essential. This will be one of the last things I go over with you before helping us understand some of how we pronounce different forms of tener in context. The 4 laws help us understand which conjugation, tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, or tienen, goes with which subject. Obviously, with our pronouns, it's very easy, but when we start to have names, it's more complex. So let's start with our 4 laws. First, identify the subject. If we don't know who the subject is, we can't know who is doing what, which is what conjugation shows us. Número dos, identify the number and of the subject is what this should say. I'll change that now. The number of the subject, is it singular or plural? That's the question you can ask yourself for law number 2. Law number 3, identify the person of the subject. Is it first, second, or third person? Also, I'm going to add in a question here. How do you know? If we can't identify what first, second, and third person are, then we're going to really, really struggle to choose if it's first, second, or third person. So if someone can't tell you, or if you aren't sure how you know that it's first person, again, talking about myself, how you know that it's second person speaking directly to someone about them, or how you know that it's third person talking about someone or talking about something, you're going to really need to know those aspects. Finally, número cuatro, 4. Choose the verb conjugation that matches the person and number. This is just a fancy word for subject verb agreement. El sujeto verbo acuerdo. Super essential to realize that person and number create subject verb agreement. Okay? Es muy importante verla. Okay? So what we want to do now is push forward into the practice. Dice, write the correct form of tener next to the subject pronoun. Again, these are easy using the subject pronouns, just simply match them. I've done the first one for you. We're moving on. Acá dice, tener is used to show relationship or possession. I want you to highlight where it says relationship or possession because this is one of the uses that we'll cover in class. Relationship and possession go hand in hand, and those are things that sound like this. Tengo dos hermanas, I have two sisters. Tienes una bicicleta, you have a bicycle. Okay? When we're talking about relationships, we usually will express the number with una, or we will use an actual number, in this case dos for two. When we are talking about things, we will again do the same. We'll use una, unos, unas, and also we can use numbers. You can have more than one bicycle. Tienes dos bicicletas. Same is true here when we see these three. Now, we won't focus on these three because these are pretty stock and similar. So we'll just jump through them real fast to express age, hunger, and thirst. These are three other details you can express. What is not one we'll focus on. But if you would like to, again, you would just simply use tener plus the number of years plus años to tell your age. We don't use ser to tell age. We've gone through this a bit in class. Let's go on to the next two. You can also use tener to express feelings or needs, right? Like hunger and thirst. You can also use it to say that you're tired, right? So, tengo hambre, tengo sed. You can replace the form of tener to tell who is hungry or who is thirsty, but tengo clearly is with yo, therefore it's I am first person hungry. I am first person thirsty. Bien? Go through these examples here according to the directions. Write the number of the sentence that corresponds to the category. Finally, now we're getting to the meat and potatoes, the good stuff. Now look at the following sentences and write the missing forms of tener. Dice, a mi prima Ana, blank 11 años. So whether we know which type or expression is happening, we can see here, I've highlighted our subjects in all but one of the sentences. Using Ana as our subject, we know that we're talking about Ana, which would give us a third person, singular, because it's just one Ana, no S, form of tener. So if we go up here, we can see first, second, third person, singular side. Again, our answer would be tiene. So we would write tiene here in the blank and keep it moving in the same way with those others there. Página D, again, I moved a little quick. Tiene es la respuesta. You want to make sure you annotate when necessary. If you're at all confused, always annotate. Even if you think you're sure on your answer, make sure you double check your work. It's a great way to show your work, just like in math. Okay. Esta actividad es muy similar, pero es sobre la familia. This is more in line with what we'll be looking at. Again, possessions or relationships. We'll be focusing on possessions and obligations most. This activity I'm going to leave open for you. It just says in the directions, look at the family tree and write the forms of tener to complete each sentence below. or to complete each sentence below it. Use these different subjects listed to help you. Make sure you read fully. The family tree is just simply there just to show you. You don't need it necessarily to complete that activity below. It's just to start to get your mind wrapped around the idea that people fit in the context of a family. Even their pets fit in that context. Finalmente tenemos eso. Now answer the following questions. These are kind of like the highest rung on this beginner ladder. These 4 questions. ¿Cuántos años tienes? ¿Cuántos hermanos tienes? ¿Tienes sed? ¿Tienes hambre? Are 4 questions that allow you to exercise those 4 different types above. Again, these last 2 I've highlighted sed y hambre just to cue you that we're talking about different things there. Okay? Just to have you interpret a bit. Now, the last thing we want to spend time going over is on página 3. Página 3 dice eso. There's a formula there. Y es obligaciones. Obligaciones, or obligaciones, lo siento, can be a part of expressing with tener. Obligaciones significa obligations, that is, in fact, a cognate. What you want to notice is that we use this formula. Tener plus que plus infinitive is used to talk about what someone has to do. When we see that has to do, that's where we get our obligations. This phrase would be muy súper útil para su desarrollamiento español. Right? En el hablar español, puedes usar eso 1000 veces. Right? You'll see this used so often, and we speak this way in English. This would be a great phrase to have available to you as you develop your speaking and listening skills. I have 2 examples that I just want to go over before I close this video. Número 1, it says, I have Spanish class. There's no directions listed here, but basically what you're doing is interpreting the sentences. I have Spanish class would be tengo la clase de español. We put la clase de before whatever class we have to express it. Tengo la clase de español significa I have Spanish class. The difference below is that now we're moving from telling what we have as a possession or a class and moving into say what we have to do. I have to take notes. Now this to take notes part lets us know that we have an English infinitive. To take notes is tomar apuntes. So I have segmented this into 3 parts. Tengo, the same, right? I have. That first part's almost identical. It's actually exactly identical. But when we go in to talk about to take notes, we have to add que to show it's an obligation. Instead of just tengo tomar apuntes, we need to have this que here to give the full recognition that we're talking about something that we have to do. So tengo que tomar apuntes. And we also want to realize that tomar apuntes stays an infinitive. We keep it as an infinitive because we don't need to tell who's doing what. We've already told that I have it. So we don't need to say I have to, I take apuntes, right? I have to, I take notes. No, I have to take notes. Bien? This is a quick breakdown. As you go forward, you can see I've highlighted all of the examples below. Finish the practice and pay close attention. Pay close attention to the infinitives in each example. Might need a dictionary. I'll be pretty lenient as far as which infinitives you use. There are a couple ways to say each of those, and we'll give you some more leadership on those in class. But these 2 aspects, again, scrolling up, possession and obligation are the 2 aspects we'll cover this week. We're just going to spend a week on tener, so we want to make sure we go quickly at understanding these 2 essential ways of using tener. Again, make sure you understand that to express tener, use tener plus que plus infinitive, conjugating only the first word, tener. Buena suerte en esta práctica. Again, you should complete all 3 practice pages and your Scoop questions before class on Wednesday. Nos vemos en clase, and remember, always tell your story and seek to understand other stories as well. Tener is a great way to begin to do so. Adios.